The arrival, the dark sea of stars stretched endlessly around the small silver ship. It moved silently, like a ghost, across the black sky. Inside the ship, a tall figure stood still, staring at a glowing screen. His name was Zarek. He was a soldier, from a world far away, trained only for war. The screen showed a blue and green planet full of life. Zarek listened to the final command from his leader, the voice cold and sharp. Destroy them. Show no mercy. Their world must fall. Zarek's eyes, golden and sharp, did not blink. He simply nodded. He had been sent many times before to other worlds. He had seen cities burn, oceans turn black, forests fall. It was all he knew. But this mission felt different. His ship entered the planet's atmosphere, flames dancing around it as it fell through the sky. He landed far from the human villages, deep in a thick forest. Trees as tall as towers surrounded him, their leaves whispering in the night wind. Zarek stepped out of his ship, his boots sinking slightly into the soft earth. He wore armor that shimmered like water under the stars, but he pressed a small button on his wrist and his suit changed. Now, he looked almost human, dressed in simple clothes with only his strange, glowing eyes giving him away. He moved through, the forest silent as a shadow. He had studied humans before, weak creatures, emotional, easy to defeat. That is what he had been taught. But as he came closer to the village, hidden between hills and rivers, he slowed down. He stood behind a tree, watching. The village was small. Lights from their homes flickered warmly. He saw people laughing, cooking, talking around fires. Children chased each other, shouting with joy. Old men and women sat together telling stories. They did not look like enemies. They looked happy, alive. Zarek frowned. His mission was to destroy them, to break their spirits before his army arrived. But as he watched, a soft voice caught his attention. He turned his head and saw her. A young woman with hair like fire and eyes like the deep sea was singing a song. It was a simple tune but full of warmth and hope. Her voice floated through the night like a soft breeze. Zarek felt something strange stir inside him. Something he did not understand. A pull, like gravity, like a thread tied to his very soul. He shook his head, angry at himself. This was weakness. Emotions had no place in war. Still, he could not look away. The girl, whose name he did not yet know, smiled as she helped an old woman carry baskets of fruit. She laughed when a small boy pulled at her skirt, asking for another story. Zarek watched. From the shadows, his mission forgotten for a moment. His communicator buzzed softly in his ear. "Report," came the cold voice of his commander. Zarek pressed a hand to his ear. "Preparations underway," he said, voice steady. "Target is vulnerable." It was a lie. He had done nothing yet. He had not even taken one step toward destroying them. He told himself he would. Soon. Very soon. But as he stood there, hidden by the trees, he realized something terrible. He didn't want to. He didn't want to see fear in their eyes. He didn't want to hear their screams. He didn't want to bring death to this place filled with life. The girl laughed again, and the sound made his heart ache. For the first time in his life, Zarek felt truly lost. He turned away from the village, moving back into the forest. He needed time. He needed to think. This was not part of the mission. This was not part of the plan. As he disappeared into the darkness, the stars above him shimmered like 1,000 watching eyes. Far away, hidden, behind clouds, other ships waited. They were ready to follow the plan, ready to strike. Zarek knew that soon he would have to choose his duty or his heart, and time was running out. The observation. The night was thick with mist as Zarek moved through the dark forest. Every step he took was silent. Even the leaves beneath his boots did not dare to make a sound. Above him, the sky was heavy with clouds. No stars tonight, no witnesses to what he was about to do. He crouched low behind a thick tree, his golden eyes glowing faintly. Ahead of him, the village lay sleeping, peaceful and unaware. This was the time to strike. His orders were clear. Find their weaknesses, prepare the ground for invasion. But Zarek did not move. He simply watched. Hours passed as he studied the humans, their simple defenses, their open streets, their trusting hearts. A group of men sat around a dying fire, talking softly. Guards, he guessed, but they looked tired, their weapons old and worn. They believed they were safe in their little world. They had no idea how close death was standing. Zarek's hand hovered near the small device at his belt. One signal, one press, and the attack would begin. But he hesitated. Instead of pressing the device, he turned his attention to her, the girl from before. He learned her name now, Sarah. He heard it whispered from the lips of others, Sarah the healer. Sarah, the heart of the village. Sarah who sang to the sick, fed the hungry, and gave hope to the hopeless. Zarek watched as she moved from house to house, even in the dead of night, carrying baskets of herbs and medicines. Her steps were careful, her face full of quiet strength. Something inside Zarek twisted painfully. He told himself it was weakness. He told himself to remember who he was. But every time he looked at her, the lines between enemy and friend blurred. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the night. Zarek tensed, his body ready for battle. From the corner of his eye, he saw movement, fast. Wild, a dark creature burst from the forest, running straight toward the village. Its skin was black and scaly, its eyes red with hunger. Sarah, who had been walking alone, froze in terror. The villagers shouted in alarm, but they were too far. The creature was too fast. Without thinking, Zarek moved. He raced through the trees, like a shadow, faster than human eyes could follow. He reached Sarah just as the creature leapt. In one powerful motion, he grabbed her and pulled her aside. The creature's claws slashed the air where she had been standing. Sarah screamed, struggling against him, not understanding who had grabbed her. Zarek turned, placing himself between her and the monster. The beast snarled, charging again. Zarek met it head on. He moved like water, like wind. No wasted motion. Within seconds, the creature lay still on the ground, defeated. But the noise had drawn attention. Villagers came running with torches and weapons. Zarek knew he could not be seen. He turned to Sarah, who was staring at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Stay hidden," he whispered in a voice not entirely human. Then he vanished into the shadows before she could speak. The villagers found Sarah alone, trembling, with the dead creature beside her. They gathered around her asking questions, but she could not answer. All she could think about was the stranger who had saved her, and disappeared like a ghost. Deep in the forest, Zarek watched them. He touched the place where Sarah had clutched his arm in fear. Her touch had been warm, real, more real than anything he had ever known. He sat under a tree feeling lost. This world, this life, it was not what he had been told. They were not monsters. They were not enemies. They were people. And Sarah was the light among them. His communicator buzzed again. "Progress report," the cold voice demanded. Zarek closed his eyes. He thought of the firelight in the village, the songs, the laughter. He thought of Sarah's voice, soft and kind. "Preparing phase 2, he lied again. He ended the call and turned the device off. No more lies to them, only lies to himself. For now. But he knew he could not delay forever. Soon, the others would come. Soon, the sky would rain fire. And he would have to decide. Was he the weapon they had made him, or was he something more? The night deepened and the mist grew thicker. But somewhere in the darkness, a small light had started burning inside Zarek. A light he could not put out. And for the first time, the soldier who had been sent to destroy a world wondered, what if he could save it instead? First contact, the forest was alive with whispers. Leaves rustled like voices speaking secrets in the dark. The wind carried the soft cries of unseen creatures. Every shadow seemed to move. Every sound seemed louder than it should have been. Zarek moved silently among the trees, unseen and unheard. But tonight he was not watching the village. He was watching her. Sarah. She had left the village alone, a lantern swinging in her hand, her footsteps quick and nervous. The dead creature from the other night still haunted her dreams, and yet she was brave enough to walk into the forest again. She was searching for something, or someone. Zarek stayed hidden, following her at a distance. He knew he should not be doing this. He should be preparing for the coming invasion, but his heart refused to let her walk alone into danger. A branch snapped under her foot. She gasped and spun around, holding up her lantern. "Who's there?" she called, her voice shaking. "The forest," answered only with silence. Zarek hesitated. He could leave, vanish into the darkness like before. But some part of him, the part that was growing louder every day, told him to step forward. So he did. Sarah's eyes widened when she saw him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Zarek stayed at the edge of the light, his face hidden by the shadows. "Who are you?" Sarah asked, clutching the lantern tightly. Zarek thought quickly. "A traveler," he said, his voice low and careful. "I mean you no harm." Sarah looked at him with suspicion. "Are you the one who saved me?" Zarek did not answer. He simply looked at her, and that was enough. Sarah lowered the lantern slightly. "Thank you," she said, her voice softer now. Zarek nodded once. A heavy silence fell between them. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Sarah took a small step closer. "What's your name?" she asked. Zarek hesitated. Giving his real name was too dangerous. "Call me Zane," he said finally. She smiled a little. "I'm Sarah." "I know," he said before he could stop himself. Her smile faded a little, and suspicion returned to her eyes. "How do you know my name?" Zarek cursed himself silently. He had made a mistake. "The villagers," he lied. "They spoke of you." Sarah relaxed slightly, but a trace of doubt remained. She studied him in the lantern light. There was something strange about him. Something not quite right. But there was also a sadness in his eyes. A loneliness she recognized. "Are you lost?" she asked. Zarek nodded, in more ways than she could ever understand. "Come with me," she said, surprising herself. "You shouldn't be out here alone." Zarek hesitated. Every instinct told him to refuse, to disappear into the night. But another part of him, the new part, the human part, wanted to accept. So he nodded again. Together, they walked back toward the village. Sarah talked as they walked, filling the silence with stories about the village, about her life, about the people she loved. Zarek listened, every word sinking deep into his heart. He had been trained to see humans as weak, foolish creatures. But Sarah's words painted a different picture. They were not weak. They were strong in ways he had never understood. Strong in kindness, strong in hope, strong in the simple, beautiful way they cared for one another. And he realized something terrible and wonderful. He didn't want to destroy them. He wanted to protect them. They reached the edge of the village. Lights flickered warmly in the distance. The smell of cooking fires drifted through the air. Sarah turned to him. "You can stay in the barn tonight," she said. "It's not much, but it's warm." Zarek nodded gratefully. "Thank you," he said. She smiled, again a real smile this time, and his heart twisted painfully in his chest. As Sarah led him toward the barn, Zarek glanced up at the sky. The clouds were clearing, and far above, hidden among the stars, he saw them. The ships, waiting, watching, ready to strike. His communicator buzzed softly against his skin. He ignored it. For tonight, he was not a soldier. He was just a traveler. And for tonight, he was not here to destroy. He was here to learn what it meant to be human. Deep in the shadows, unseen by either of them, other eyes watched too. Eyes that did not belong to humans. Something else had landed on this world. Something darker. Something far more dangerous. And soon, Sarah's village would face a threat even greater than Zarek's people. The first battle was coming, and Zarek would have to choose a side, not just between duty and love, but between life and death. The night swallowed them as they entered the barn, the lantern light flickering one last time before the darkness closed in, and somewhere far away, the first storm clouds of war began to gather. Secrets and lies. The barn smelled of old hay and wood smoke. It was dark, except for a single lantern that Sarah placed near the door. The soft golden light pushed back the shadows just enough to make the space feel less lonely. Zarek sat quietly on a pile of hay, his arms resting on his knees. His eyes, sharp and restless, moved around the barn, noting every detail. Every exit, every weakness, old habits, soldier habits. He tried to push them away. Sarah worked quietly in the corner, preparing a bed for him from extra blankets. She moved with the easy grace of someone used to caring for others. Zarek watched her, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. No one had ever cared for him before. Not like this. Not even close. "Here," Sarah said, smiling as she tossed him a blanket. Zarek caught it easily. "Thank you," he said, the words awkward in his mouth. He was still learning how humans spoke kindness without expecting anything in return. Sarah sat down across from him, hugging her knees. For a while, they just sat there, listening to the soft sounds of the night. A dog barked somewhere far away. An owl called from the trees. "Where are you from?" Sarah asked suddenly. Zarek froze. A simple question, a dangerous one. He forced a small smile. "Far from here," he said carefully. Sarah laughed lightly. "I guessed that much." Zarek searched her face. She was curious but not suspicious. Not yet. He knew he would have to lie. But lying to her felt harder than lying to anyone else. "I come from a place across the mountains," he said. Sarah tilted her head. "Must be lonely out there." "It is," Zarek admitted, and for once the truth slipped through the cracks. Sarah smiled sadly. "You're welcome here, Zane. People need each other, even strangers." Her words cut deeper than any weapon ever had. People need each other. Zarek looked away, his heart aching. He was not supposed to need anyone. He was supposed to be a weapon. Strong. Cold. Alone. The communicator hidden under his shirt buzzed again, a sharp reminder of what he truly was. He ignored it. Sarah yawned and stood up, brushing hay from her skirt. "Get some rest," she said. "We start work early around here." Zarek nodded. As she left the barn, closing the door behind her, Zarek leaned back against the wall and stared up at the ceiling. He was sinking deeper into a life he could never have, and he didn't know if he had the strength to pull himself out. The next few days passed in a strange blur. Zarek worked alongside the villagers, repairing fences, gathering crops, fixing roofs. He learned their names, their stories, their hopes and dreams. He learned to laugh when they laughed. He learned to care when they cried. And all the while, he hid the truth. Every night, when the village slept, he climbed the hill beyond the fields and stared at the sky. The ships were still there, waiting. The invasion could begin any day now, and he would be forced to choose. But even worse than the fear of choosing was the fear of being discovered. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with fire, Sarah found him on the hill. She sat beside him without speaking. For a long time they watched the sky together. "You're not who you say you are," she said softly. Zarek's heart stopped. He turned to look at her, but her gaze stayed fixed on the horizon. "I'm not stupid," she said. "You move too fast, you fight too well, and your eyes, they're not normal." Zarek said nothing. The truth hung heavy between them. Sarah finally looked at him, her eyes clear and full of something he had not expected. Not fear, not anger. Sadness. "Who are you really?" she asked. Zarek opened his mouth, but no words came out. How could he explain? How could he tell her that he had come to destroy everything she loved? "Please," Sarah whispered. "I deserve the truth." Zarek closed his eyes. He wanted to tell her. More than anything, he wanted to tell her, but he couldn't. Not yet. If he did, she would hate him. And somehow, that thought was more terrifying than facing an army. I can't, he said, voice broken. Sarah nodded slowly as if she had expected this answer. She stood up, brushing dirt from her dress. Everyone has secrets, she said. But someday, they always come out. Then she walked away, leaving Zarek alone under the burning sky. That night, Zarek stood at the edge of the forest, hidden in the shadows. He watched the village, the people he had come to know, to care for. He watched Sarah's window, where a soft light still glowed. His communicator buzzed again. This time, he answered. The commander's voice was cold and sharp as ever. Status report, he demanded. Zarek's fingers tightened around the device. He should tell the truth. He should say that he had failed, that he had fallen. Instead, he lied. The village is weak, he said. Ready for attack. The commander laughed. A cruel sound. Good, he said. The invasion begins tomorrow. The words hit Zarek like a blade. Tomorrow. They were out of time. He turned off the communicator and stared at the sleeping village. His heart pounded painfully in his chest. He had less than 24 hours. 24 hours to save them. 24 hours to decide who he really was. And somewhere deep in the forest, something else was moving. Something darker. Something even Zarek might not be able to stop. The real war had not even started yet. And already, he was losing. Torn between worlds, the night was too quiet. Zarek stood at the top of the hill, the wind pulling at his clothes, his golden eyes locked on the dark horizon. Somewhere beyond the mountains, his people were gathering. Their ships were hidden among the stars, engines humming softly, ready to rain fire and death upon this world. And it would start tonight. His heart twisted painfully in his chest. He could still stop it, but it would mean betraying everything he had been created for. His communicator buzzed again at his waist, blinking a red light. One final message. One final chance. He hesitated for a long moment before pressing the small button. The cold, familiar voice of his commander filled the air. Zarek, the voice snapped. Final orders confirmed. Strike at dawn. Soften their defenses. No survivors. Zarek closed his eyes against the words. No survivors. He knew what that would look like. The smoke, the blood, the screams. He had seen it too many times before. But this time he cared. This time he had a reason to fight against it. Sir, Zarek said slowly, there must be another way. They are not a threat. They could be allies. Silence crackled through the device. Then, laughter, cruel and sharp. You sound weak, the commander said. Have you gone native, soldier? Zarek said nothing. Remember who you are, the voice hissed. You were made for one purpose. Destroy, obey. Do not fail us. The communicator went dead. Zarek let it fall from his fingers into the tall grass. His hands were shaking. He had less than 6 hours to make a choice, and every second was pulling him in 2 different directions. Sarah sat by the fire, turning a cup of tea in her hands. She couldn't sleep, not tonight. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones, in the way the wind shifted, in the way the birds had stopped singing, and in the way Zarek, had looked at her. He was hiding something terrible. She hugged her knees to her chest and stared into the flames. Could she trust him? Her heart said yes. Her mind said no. Outside the small house, she heard footsteps. Slow. Heavy. She stood quickly, grabbing a knife from the table. The door creaked open, and there he was. Zarek. His face was different. Tonight, harder, sadder. Sarah, he said, his voice rough. What's happening? She asked. He didn't answer at first. He just looked at her, memorizing her face as if this would be the last time he ever saw her. Then he spoke. They're coming, he said. 2 words. 2. Simple, terrible words. Sarah felt her knees weaken. She grabbed the table to stay standing. "Who's coming?" she whispered, though she already knew. "My people," Zarek said. "They're going to attack the village. Destroy everything." Sarah's heart pounded painfully in her chest. "And you?" she asked, voice trembling. "What will you do?" Zarek stepped closer, his hands open, empty. "I want to help you," he said. "I want to stop them." Sarah searched his face, looking for lies, but found none. Only pain, only truth. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. Zarek hesitated, then spoke the words he had never said out loud before. "Because I love you." The world seemed to stop spinning. Sarah stared at him, unable to breathe. Behind him, in the distance, the first flashes of light blinked on the horizon, ships descending. "War beginning. We have to warn the others," she said, finding her voice again. Zarek nodded. Together they ran into the night. The village was slow to wake at first. Confused faces, frightened whispers. Then Zarek stood in the middle of the square, his voice loud and clear. "You are in danger," he shouted. "You must leave now." Some recognized him. Some remembered the strange way he moved, the way he fought. Fear flashed across their faces. "He's one of them!" someone shouted. A murmur of panic swept through the crowd. "No," Sarah cried, pushing forward. "He's here to help us. He saved me. He saved all of us." But it was too late. The villagers backed away from Zarek, fear and anger. Clouding their eyes, Zarek felt the walls closing in. They would not trust him. Not tonight. Not ever. He turned to Sarah. "Get them to the caves," he said. "Hide there." "What about you?" she asked, tears shining in her eyes. Zarek smiled sadly. "I'll buy you time." Before she could stop him, he turned and ran toward the fields, toward the first landing ships, toward the enemy. The first blast tore through the night like a scream. Fire lit up the fields, and metal giants fell from the sky. Soldiers in black armor poured out, weapons ready. Zarek met them head-on. He fought with everything he had, faster than human eyes could follow, stronger than any human could imagine. But there were too many. Blow after blow rained down on him. Still he fought, not for glory, not for orders, for her, for them, for the life he wanted but could never have. High above, the main ship hovered, its cannons charging. It would destroy the entire village in one shot. Zarek saw it, and he knew what he had to do. With the last of his strength, he pushed through the enemy lines. He ran straight for the ship's core, straight for the heart of death itself. A single thought in his mind. Save her. Save them all, even if it cost him everything. Far away, hidden in the caves, Sarah watched the sky burn. Tears streamed down her face. "Come back," she whispered into the darkness. "Please come back." But deep down she knew. Some battles are won with swords. Others are won with sacrifice. And tonight, a soldier torn between two worlds had made his choice. The sky exploded in light and the world changed forever. The betrayal. The air was thick with smoke and ash. Sarah stumbled out of the cave, coughing, her eyes burning. Behind her, the villagers clung to each other, terrified, whispering prayers into the choking darkness. Above them, the sky was on fire. Ships burned. Metal rained down like falling stars. Shadows moved across the hills, fast and deadly. And somewhere out there, Zarek was fighting alone. Sarah's heart twisted painfully. She wanted to run to him, to find him, but the others needed her. "Stay. Here," she ordered. "Wait for my signal." They nodded, too scared to argue. Taking a deep breath, Sarah ran back toward the village, her feet pounding the broken ground. Each step felt heavier than the last. She didn't know what she would find. She only knew she had to try. Zarek knelt in the smoking ruins of the field, his body broken and bleeding. The ground was littered with fallen soldiers, both human and alien. He had fought them all. He had won every battle. But he was losing the war. Above him, the massive command ship hovered, its cannons still aimed at the village. Its lights painted the night red and gold as if the heavens themselves were bleeding. The main hatch opened with a hiss of steam, and from it, the commander descended. Tall, powerful, wrapped in black armor that shined like glass. Zarek forced himself to stand. His body screamed in protest, but he would not kneel before his enemy. "You disappoint me, Zarek," the commander said, his voice cold as ice. "I made you stronger than any human. I made you perfect." Zarek spat blood at the commander's feet. "You made me a monster," he said. The commander laughed. "Monsters do not fall in love," he said mockingly. "Monsters obey." Behind the commander, more soldiers poured out of the ship, forming a circle around Zarek. "No way out. No escape. You have a choice," the commander said. "Kneel and your life will be spared. Return to your duty." Zarek looked up at the sky, thinking of Sarah, her smile, her kindness, her belief in him. "I am not yours anymore," Zarek said. The commander's face twisted in rage. "Then die with these pathetic creatures you chose to protect." He raised his hand. The soldiers moved in. Zarek fought with everything he had left, but he was outnumbered, outmatched, and exhausted. They overwhelmed him. They beat him until he could not move, until the world around him turned black. When Sarah reached the village, it was already too late. The streets were in ruins, houses burned, bodies lay twisted in the dirt, and in the center of the square she saw him, Zarek, chained, broken, kneeling before the commander like a trophy. Her heart shattered at the sight. "No," she whispered. She started to run toward him, but strong hands grabbed her from behind. The villagers, they had followed her. They held her back. "Look," one of them shouted. "He was one of them all along. He betrayed us." Sarah struggled, trying to break free. "No," she cried. "He saved us. He fought for us." But fear had poisoned their hearts. They could not see the truth. Only the blood. Only the wreckage. And now, the commander raised his weapon, pointing it at Zarek's head. "Surrender," he shouted to the villagers, "or watch him die." The villagers froze. Some dropped their weapons. Some fell to their knees. Sarah felt helplessness swallow her whole. And then Zarek looked up. Even through the bruises, even through the blood, he smiled at her. It was a small smile. Broken, sad, full of love. Sarah's tears blurred her vision. He had chosen them. Even when they had chosen to hate him, he had chosen her. The commander's finger tightened on the trigger, but before he could fire, a low rumble shook the ground. Everyone turned. From the mountains, a second army was coming. But these were not Zarek's people. They were something else. Something worse. Beasts taller than houses. Creatures with burning eyes and claws like swords. Zarek's people had woken something ancient in this world. Something even they could not control. The new threat crashed into the battlefield with a roar that split the sky. Soldiers screamed. Villagers ran. The commander barked orders, but the creatures were unstoppable. Chaos exploded around them. In the confusion, Sarah broke free. She sprinted to Zarek's side, slashing at his chains with the knife she carried. "Come on," she sobbed. "Please get up." Zarek tried. His body refused. "Leave me," he whispered. "No," Sarah said fiercely. "I won't." She pulled at him with all her strength, and somehow, he got to his feet. Together, they stumbled away from the battle, slipping into the ruins. Behind them, the world tore itself apart. Fire, blood, screams. But ahead of them, there was still a chance. Still a sliver of hope. They found shelter in the ruins of an old temple hidden under a broken arch. Sarah tore strips of cloth from her dress, binding Zarek's wounds as best she could. He winced but said nothing. His golden eyes never left hers. "You should have left me," he said. "Never," she whispered. Outside, the sounds of battle faded into the distance. A terrible silence settled over the land, They will come for us, Zarek said. Then we fight, Sarah said, her voice shaking but strong. He smiled faintly. You are braver than any soldier, he said. She touched his face gently. You're not a soldier anymore, she said. And in that broken place, among the ruins of everything they had known, two souls found each other, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as the last hope of a dying world. But far above, hidden behind the clouds, something even worse was awakening. The final storm, the real enemy, and soon, Zarek and Sarah would learn. The true betrayal had only just begun. Redemption and new beginning. The first light of dawn touched the broken land. It was a weak light, pale and cold. Unable to warm the ruins that once were a home for many, Sarah stood at the entrance of the shattered temple, her arms wrapped around, herself watching the smoke rise into the morning sky. Behind her, Zarek lay resting, his breath slow, his body bruised and battered but alive. The battle had ended, but the war was not over. Deep in the earth, ancient beasts still roamed, searching for anything left to destroy, and in the skies hidden beyond sight the final enemy stirred. Something darker, something older than either of them could understand. Sarah turned as Zarek stirred, sitting up slowly, grimacing from the pain. They will come again, he said quietly. Sarah nodded. Then we will be ready. He smiled, a tired but true smile. For the first time, Zarek felt free. He was no longer a weapon, no longer a tool of destruction. He was something else now, something stronger. He was human where it mattered most. In his heart, they spent the day gathering survivors. The villagers who had once feared him now looked at him with new eyes, not as an enemy, but as a protector, a leader. With Sarah by his side, Zarek helped rebuild what little could be saved. He taught them how to fight, how to defend their home. Every night they lit fires around the village, their flames chasing away the darkness. Every day they grew stronger. Hope, once broken, began to rise again. Slowly, carefully, like a flower pushing through cracked stone. But, deep inside, Zarek knew the peace could not last. Not while the final enemy remained. One night, as the fire crackled and the stars blinked silently overhead, a stranger came to the village. He wore a dark cloak and moved with strange, unnatural grace. The villagers drew their weapons, fear flashing in their eyes. Zarek stepped forward, standing between them and the stranger. The figure pushed back his hood, revealing silver skin and eyes as black as space. An ancient one, a being older than memory. You are the one who betrayed your kind, the stranger said to Zarek, his voice like stone. Grinding on stone, Zarek said nothing. Because of you, the stranger continued, the balance has been broken. The destroyers have awakened. They will not stop until this world burns. Sarah stepped beside Zarek, her chin lifted proudly. Then we will fight, she said. The stranger laughed, a sound without joy. You are brave, little human, he said. But you do not understand. He pointed a long, thin finger at Zarek. He carries their mark. Their weapon still sleeps inside him. Zarek stiffened. Sarah grabbed his hand, squeezing it tightly. What weapon? She demanded. The stranger's eyes glowed faintly. Inside him is the key, the power to destroy this world or to save it. A heavy silence fell over them. How? Zarek asked, his voice low. The stranger smiled sadly. You must choose, he said. Sacrifice yourself, and the destroyers will fall back into their slumber. And if I don't, Zarek asked, then this world will fall, the stranger said simply. All of it. Then, like mist under the morning sun, the stranger vanished, leaving them with an impossible choice. Zarek sat alone by the dying fire, staring into the ashes. Sarah approached quietly, wrapping a blanket around his shoulders. Don't even think about it, she said. Zarek smiled weakly. It's the only way. No, Sarah said fiercely. We'll find another way, we always do. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You gave me something I never thought I could have, he said. A home. a heart, a future. Tears filled her eyes. "Then stay," she whispered. "Stay with me." He leaned his forehead against hers, closing his eyes. "I wish I could," he said. The dawn was coming fast. So was the final battle. When the destroyers came, they came with a fury the world had never seen. The ground shook. The skies tore apart. Monsters bigger than mountains roared across the land, their eyes burning with endless hunger. The villagers fought bravely, side by side with Zarek, side by side with Sarah. But it was not enough. The destroyers could not be killed, only sealed, and only Zarek could do it. He stood atop the hill, the ancient energy awakening inside him. It burned through his veins like fire, like lightning. He could feel the power waiting. One word, one thought, and he could end it. But he could also end himself. He looked back one last time, at Sarah, at the people he had come to love, and he made his choice. He closed his eyes. He spoke the word. The world shuddered. The destroyers screamed, their bodies twisting into ash. The sky tore open, swallowing them whole. The earth healed itself, sealing the rift. The war ended, but Zarek fell. Sarah reached him just in time to catch him as he collapsed. "No," she sobbed. "Please, no." Zarek smiled weakly. "You're safe," he whispered. "We're safe." She held him close, tears streaming down her face. "You can't leave me," she cried. His golden eyes softened. "I'm not leaving," he said. "I'll always be with you." His hand brushed her cheek one last time, and then, like the last star fading at dawn, he was gone. Years passed. The village grew strong again. New homes were built, new songs were sung. Children played where battles had once raged, and every night as the stars lit up the sky, Sarah would stand on the hill looking up, her heart full of memories, full of love, full of hope, because she knew some heroes never truly leave. They just become part of the world they saved, forever.